Captain Jake Martinez was having his morning coffee when the alarms went off. He almost spilled the hot drink on his uniform as the ship shook slightly. The bridge crew was already moving to their stations when he arrived. "What's the situation?" Jake asked as he sat in his captain's chair. Lisa Park, the communications officer, looked up from her screen. Her eyes were wide with excitement. "Sir, we have a contact." "A really big one." "How big?" Jake asked, taking another sip of his coffee. "About 10 times the size of our ship, sir," said Ryan Cole from the engineering station. "And it's not showing up in any of our databases." Jake looked at the main screen. What he saw made him pause with his coffee cup halfway to his lips. The ship in front of them looked like something from a horror movie. It was black and covered in spikes. Strange symbols glowed red along its hull. At the front, there was what looked like a giant skull with glowing eyes. "Well," Jake said slowly, "that single quotes C. Creative." The ship was massive and clearly meant to look scary. But there was something about it that made Jake want to smile. It looked like someone had taken a medieval castle and stuck it in space. The spikes seemed to serve no purpose except to look threatening. "Sir," Lisa said, "we're getting a transmission." "Put it on screen," Jake ordered. The screen filled with smoke and red light. Dramatic music started playing. Through the smoke, a figure appeared. It was tall and thin, wearing what looked like a black robe with a hood. Its face was hidden in shadow, but 2 glowing red eyes were visible. "Puny beings of the void," the figure spoke in a deep, echoing voice. "I am Admiral Zexthara of the mighty Galactic Empire. Your pathetic vessel has entered Imperial space without permission." Jake looked around the bridge. Ryan was trying very hard not to smile. Lisa had her hand over her mouth. Even Beth Johnson at the navigation station was fighting back laughter. "Prepare to face the wrath of the Empire," the alien continued. "Your fate is sealed. Surrender now, or face cosmic annihilation." There was a long pause. More dramatic music played. Lightning effects flashed behind the alien figure. Jake cleared his throat. Hi there. I'm Captain Jake Martinez of the human ship Liberty's Edge. Nice to meet you." The alien paused. This was clearly not the response he expected. "Did you not hear my words, foolish creature? I have promised you cosmic annihilation." "Yeah, I heard." "That," Jake said, trying to keep his voice steady, "that's quite a threat. Very traumatic." Ryan Cole couldn't hold it in anymore. A small snort of laughter escaped him. Lisa shot him a warning look, but she was smiling too. "I sense you do not understand the gravity of your situation," Admiral Zexthara continued. "Perhaps a demonstration is needed." The alien ship's weapons began to glow. They were huge and covered in more spikes. Red energy crackled around them. "Behold the cannons of eternal suffering," the Admiral announced. These weapons had destroyed 1,000 worlds. Beth Johnson leaned over to Ryan. "Did he just say cannons of eternal suffering?" she whispered. "I think he did," Ryan whispered back. "And look at them. They're literally just big cannons with scary names." Jake was doing his best to take this seriously, but it was getting harder by the minute. The alien ship looked like it was designed by someone who really wanted to scare people, but had never actually met any people before. "Admiral," Jake said, "we're just explorers. We're not here to cause trouble. We didn't even know this was your space." "Ignorance is nitrogen monoxide excuse," the Admiral replied. "The Empire claims all space, all worlds, all life. You will submit to Imperial rule. ORB destroyed. All space?" Jake asked. "Quite a claim. The Empire is eternal. The Empire is all-powerful. The Empire is getting a bit repetitive?" Ryan suggested quietly. Lisa had to bite her lip to keep from laughing. "The Whole situation was getting more absurd by the minute. The alien was clearly trying very hard to be scary, but he kept saying things that sounded like they came from a bad movie. "I grow tired of your insolence," the Admiral said. "You will come aboard my vessel for judgment. Any attempt to flee will result in immediate vaporization." "Vaporization?" Jake asked. "That's your go-to threat? The Empire has many forms of punishment. Vaporization is merely the most merciful." Beth started making a list on her tablet. "Let's see," she said quietly. "So far we've had cosmic annihilation, eternal suffering, and vaporization. What's next, super mega death?" The Admiral seemed to hear her. "Silence, insignificant worm. Your mockery will not save you from the super mega death protocol." The bridge went quiet. Then Ryan started laughing. Not just a little laugh, but a real deep belly laugh. Within seconds, the whole bridge crew was laughing. Did he just say super mega death protocol? Lisa gasped between laughs. "I think he's making these up as he goes along," Beth said, wiping tears from her eyes. Admiral Zexthara looked confused. "Why do you laugh? Do you not fear the might of the Empire?" Jake took a deep breath and tried to compose himself. "I'm sorry, Admiral. It's just ... Well, you're trying very hard to be scary, and we appreciate the effort. But ... But what?" The alien demanded. "But your ship looks like a goth teenager's bedroom," Jake said simply. The Admiral was silent for a long moment. "A goth teenager?" "Yeah," Ryan added. "All black with spikes and skulls. Very dramatic. Very ... young. And the names," Lisa said. "Cannons of Eternal Suffering, Super Mega Death Protocol. It's like you're trying too hard." The Admiral looked completely lost. We. The Empire has used these tactics for centuries. They have never failed." "Well," Jake said gently, "maybe you just haven't met the right people yet." The transmission ended abruptly. The Imperial ship sat in space, its weapons still glowing, but no longer pointing at the human vessel. "Sir," Lisa said, "I think we just broke their first contact protocol." "Yeah," Jake said, finishing his coffee. "I think we did." 3 hours later, Jake found himself in the shuttle bay with Amy Foster and Tony Rodriguez. Amy was adjusting her dress uniform, while Tony checked his sidearm for the third time. "Remember," Jake said, "we're guests aboard their ship. Let's try to be respectful, even if they have more skulls and spikes." Amy asked. "Especially if they have more skulls and spikes," Jake replied. "These people seem to take their drama very seriously." A shuttle trip to the Imperial ship was short, but impressive. Up close, the vessel was even more elaborate than it had appeared on screen. Every surface seemed to be covered in decorative elements. There were gargoyles, more skulls, and what looked like carved demons along the hull. "It's like a haunted house in space," Tony muttered as they docked. The airlock opened to reveal 2 Imperial guards. They wore black armor, covered in the same spiky decorations as their ship. Their helmets had glowing red eye slits, and they carried weapons that looked like they weighed more than a person. "Follow," one of them said in a deep, electronically modified voice. "Do not speak. Do not look around. Do not breathe too loudly." "Don't breathe too loudly?" Amy whispered to Jake. "I think they're still trying to be scary," Jake whispered back. The hallways of the Imperial ship were just as dramatic as everything else. The walls were black with red lighting. Every few feet, there were more skulls and spikes. The ceiling was so high it disappeared into darkness above them. "Someone really liked Halloween," Tony said quietly. The guards led them through a maze of corridors. Every door they passed had warnings written in glowing red letters. Danger, death, doom, and authorized personnel only seemed to be the most popular choices. I wonder what they consider unauthorized personnel, Amy said. Probably anyone who doesn't own black robes, Jake replied. They finally reached a massive door marked Throne Room of Eternal Judgment. The guards pressed their hands against skull-shaped scanners, and the door opened with a loud grinding sound and dramatic music. The throne room was enormous. The ceiling was so high it couldn't be seen. Black pillars stretched upward into the darkness. At the far end of the room, on a raised platform, sat a throne that looked like it had been carved from a single piece of black stone. "Welcome to the lair of evil," Tony said under his breath. Sitting on the throne was another figure in black robes. This one was even taller than Admiral Zexthara, and wore a crown made of what looked like black metal and more skulls. "Approach," the figure commanded. "Come before the throne of Supreme Commander Vorthik." The humans walked down the long aisle toward the throne. As they got closer, Amy noticed something odd. The throne had cup holders built into the armrests, and there was what looked like a small snack tray on one side. "Are those ... cup holders?" Amy whispered. "I think they are," Jake replied. "And is that a bag of chips?" Supreme Commander Vorthik raised his hand. "Silence. You stand before the ruler of 1,000 worlds. Show respect." "Sorry," Jake said. "We're just admiring your throne." "ITEs. Magnificent, is IT not? Carved from the bones of my enemies." Amy looked more closely. "Actually, sir, I think that might be plastic." There was a pause. "What?" "The throne," Amy said. "It's made of black plastic. Really good quality plastic, but still plastic." "IT is not plastic," Vorthik insisted. "ITIs. Space bone? Space bone?" Tony asked. "Yes, bone from space. Very different from regular bone." The three humans exchanged glances. Amy was trying very hard not to smile. "Of course," Jake said diplomatically. "Space bone, much more dramatic." "Exactly," Vorthik said, sounding pleased. "Now to business. You have entered Imperial space without permission. This is a crime punishable by ultimate destruction." "Ultimate destruction?" Amy asked. "What happened to Super Mega Death?" "That is for lesser crimes," Vorthik explained. "Seriously, ultimate destruction is much worse." "How much worse?" Tony asked. "Much, much worse. There is screaming, and fire, and other terrible things." Jake nodded. "Sounds very thorough." "It is. However, the Empire is merciful. You may choose to surrender your ship and serve the Empire for eternity." "Eternity?" Amy asked. "That's a long time." "Yes, forever and ever, until the stars burn out and the universe ends." "And then what?" Tony asked. Vorthik paused. "Then more eternity." Amy made a small noise. Jake looked at her and realized she was trying not to laugh. "What kind of work would we be doing?" Jake asked quickly. "Important work. Empire work. Mostly standing around looking menacing." "Standing around looking menacing?" Tony repeated. "Yes, IT is very important. The Empire requires many people to stand around and look scary. Sometimes there is also dramatic pointing." "Dramatic pointing?" Amy asked, her voice getting higher. "Yes, when the Supreme Commander speaks, people must point dramatically, like this." Vorthik stood up and pointed at the humans. His robe billowed dramatically, and thunder sound effects played from hidden speakers. That was when Amy lost it. She started laughing. Not just a little laugh, but a real, helpless fit of giggles. The sound echoed through the enormous throne room. "Why does she laugh?" Vorthik demanded. "Sorry," Jake said. "It's just ... The pointing. It's very dramatic." "Of course it is dramatic. Everything the Empire does is dramatic. That is the point." "But why?" Tony asked. "Why does everything have to be so scary and dramatic?" Because that is how you rule, Vorthik said, as if it was obvious. People fear the dramatic. They obey the scary. But we're not afraid, Amy said, still giggling. We think it's funny. Funny? Vorthik sounded confused. The Empire is not funny. The Empire is terrifying. Well, Jake said gently, maybe too. Some people, but to us, it's just ... a lot of theater. Theater? Vorthik repeated. Drama. Acting. You know, like a play. The Empire is not a play, Vorthik said firmly. The Empire is real. The Empire is powerful. The Empire is really into black clothing and skull decorations. Amy finished. Vorthik sat back down on his throne. He looked confused and a little hurt. We don't mean to be rude, Jake said. It's just ... where we come from. When someone tries this hard to be scary, it usually means they're not actually that scary. Not scary? Vorthik stood up again. I will show you scary. Guards, activate the Circle of Doom. The guards pressed more buttons. The floor around the throne began to glow red. Fake fog started pouring out of vents in the walls. More dramatic. Music played. Behold, Vorthik announced. The Circle of Doom. Anyone who enters will face unspeakable horrors. Tony looked at the glowing circle. What kind of horrors? Unspeakable ones. But what do they actually do? Amy asked. They are unspeakable. I cannot speak of them. So you don't know? Jake asked. I know. I just cannot speak of them. Because they're unspeakable? Exactly. The three humans looked at each other. Then they all started laughing. Admiral Sam Burke was reviewing the morning reports when his communications officer interrupted him. Sir, we have a situation, Danny Wright said, trying to keep his voice steady. The Empire is sending a fleet to demonstrate their military power. Sam looked up from his coffee. How big a fleet? 50 ships, sir. All heading this way. 50? Sam raised an eyebrow. That seems like overkill for a first contact situation. They're calling it a demonstration of Imperial might, Danny said. The fleet commander is someone called Battle Fleet Commander Kethmer. Sam sighed. More dramatic titles. Let me guess. He wants to show us the error of our ways. Something like that, sir. The human fleet consisted of only 5 ships. The Constitution, where Sam served as fleet admiral, was joined by the Ranger, the Patriot, the Defender, and the Explorer. They were good ships, but they were vastly outnumbered. Sir, Kelly Smith said from the tactical station, the Imperial fleet is dropping out of hyperspace. The main screen filled with ships, lots of ships. They were all black with the same spiky decorations as the first Imperial vessel. They formed a perfect line, like something from an old war movie. Well, Sam said, they certainly know how to make an entrance. Sir, Danny said, we're getting a transmission from the flagship. Put it on screen. The screen filled with smoke and red light. A figure appeared wearing black armor covered in spikes. His helmet had glowing red eyes and what looked like small horns, pathetic humans, the figure announced. I am Battle Fleet Commander Kethmer. You face the might of the Imperial Battle Fleet. Sam stood up. Hello, Commander. I'm Admiral Sam Burke. Nice fleet you have there. Nice? Kethmer seemed confused. IT is not nice. IT is terrifying. It is the instrument of your doom. Right. Sam said, the instrument of doom. Got it. Behold, Kethmer continued, 50 ships of the Imperial Navy, each one capable of destroying entire worlds. Danny leaned over to Kelly. 50 ships to destroy one world? That seems inefficient. Maybe they take turns, Kelly whispered back. Prepare to witness the power of the Empire, Kethmer announced. These are the dreadnoughts of eternal darkness. Sam looked at the ships on screen. They were big and intimidating, but something about them seemed familiar. Danny, Sam said quietly, run a tactical analysis on those ships. Already on it, sir, Danny replied. Sir, you're going to want to see this. The tactical display showed detailed scans of the Imperial ships. They were large and covered in weapons, but the weapons themselves were strange. Are those dot cannons? Sam asked. Yes, sir, big ones, but they're not energy weapons. They're firing actual projectiles. Projectiles? Sam looked more closely. Are you telling me these people are using cannonballs in space? It appears so, sir. Very large, very decorative cannonballs. Kefmer was still talking. These are the cannons of eternal suffering. Each shot brings death and destruction. Eternal suffering again, Kelly muttered. They really like that phrase. Observe. Kefmer commanded. I will demonstrate the power of the Empire. The Imperial ships began firing. Large, glowing projectiles shot out from their cannons. They moved slowly through space, trailing smoke and sparks. Sir, Danny said, they're firing at that asteroid. The humans watched as the Imperial cannonballs slowly traveled toward a large space rock. It took almost 30 seconds for them to reach their target. When they hit, there was a dramatic explosion with lots of fire and smoke. Behold, Kefner announced, the power of the Empire. Sam scratched his head. That was colorful. The explosion was mostly for show, Kelly reported. Those projectiles are moving so slowly we could dodge them easily. How slowly? Sam asked. About as fast as a baseball pitch, sir. Sam stared at the screen. A baseball pitch? In space combat? Yes, sir. And, sir, there's something else. The Imperial ships don't have any shields. No shields? No, sir. They rely on armor. Very thick armor, but still just armor. Sam sat back in his chair. So let me get this straight. They're using slow-moving cannonballs and no shields? That's correct, sir. And they think this is frightening? Apparently, sir. Sam thought for a moment. Then he smiled. Danny, open a channel to the Imperial fleet. Channel open, sir. Commander Kefmer, Sam said. Thank you for the demonstration. Very impressive. Of course it is impressive. IT is the might of the Empire. I have a question, though. Are those cannonballs made of iron? They are made of the finest Imperial metal, forged in the fires of conquered worlds. So ... iron? Sam asked. Imperial iron. Very different from regular iron. Danny started to grin. Sir, I think I know what you're getting at. Silence, Kefmer commanded. You will now surrender or face the full power of the Imperial fleet. Sam stood up. Commander, I have a better idea. How about I tell you a joke? A joke? Yes. What do you call a slow-moving cannonball in space? A what? A sitting duck, Sam said. The bridge crew started to chuckle. Danny was the first to get it. Sir, Danny said, permission to demonstrate? Granted. Commander Kefmer, watch. This. Danny activated the Constitution's point defense system. The small, fast-firing lasers were designed to shoot down incoming missiles and debris. They locked onto the slow-moving Imperial cannonballs and began shooting them down like clay pigeons. What are you doing? Kefmer demanded. Skeet shooting. Danny replied. Your cannonballs are so slow, our defensive systems think they're space junk. The Imperial fleet fired another volley. This time, all 5 human ships activated their point defense systems. The space around them lit up with laser fire as they systematically destroyed every incoming projectile. Impossible, Kefmer said. The cannons of eternal suffering have never been defeated. Well, Sam said, maybe because you've never fought. Anyone with decent reflexes. Kelly leaned forward. Sir, I'm reading massive confusion on the Imperial ships. They don't seem to know what to do. Prepare for secondary attack, Kefmer announced. Launch the missiles of ultimate doom. Ultimate doom? Sam repeated. I thought that was reserved for special occasions. The Imperial ships launched what looked like missiles. But these missiles were also slow and covered in unnecessary decorations. They had skull-shaped warheads and trailing black smoke. Those aren't missiles, Danny said. Those are torpedoes. Really old-fashioned torpedoes. From the water-based naval era? Sam asked. Exactly, sir. They're using 18th century naval tactics in space. Sam started to laugh. They're space pirates. Literal space pirates. The human ships easily dodged the slow-moving torpedoes. A few of them even did barrel rolls just to show off. Stop laughing, Kefmer demanded. The Empire is not funny. Commander, Sam said, I think there's been a misunderstanding. You're not scary. You're adorable. Adorable? Yes. It's like watching kids play dress-up with their parents' clothes. The Imperial fleet began to retreat. Not in formation, but in a confused, disorganized way that made it look like they were running. Away. Sir, Danny said, they're withdrawing. Already? We haven't even started shooting back yet. I think they're confused, sir. Their entire strategy was based on being scary, and it's not working. Sam sat back down. Danny, send a message to Captain Martinez. Tell him we might need to have a longer conversation with these people. What should I tell him about the battle? Tell him we won by being ourselves, Sam said, and that their space navy is about as threatening as a historical reenactment. On the main screen, the Imperial fleet was still retreating. One of the ships had apparently gotten confused and was flying in circles. Sir, Kelly said, should we pursue? No, Sam said. Let them go. I think we've hurt their feelings enough for one day. As the Imperial ships disappeared into hyperspace, Sam couldn't help but smile. They had just defeated 50 warships without firing a single shot. All they had done was treat the battle like a joke. Annie, Sam said, make a note in the log. First rule of diplomacy with the Galactic Empire, don't take them seriously. Yes, sir. Should I add that their military tactics are about 300 years out of date? Add that too. And Danny? Yes, sir. Next time they want to demonstrate their power, ask them to bring faster cannonballs. Dr. Nenia Thompson was studying the recordings from the previous encounters when she had an idea. She was aboard the research vessel Discovery, the smallest ship in the human fleet, but it had the best scientific equipment. Captain, she said, to the ship's commander, I think we're approaching this all wrong. Captain Steve Miller looked up from his reports. What do you mean, Doc? These Imperial people. They're not really trying to be evil. They're just ... traumatic. It's like they learned everything they know about intimidation from old movies. That's what makes them funny, said Jake Green, the ship's pilot. But what if it's not supposed to be funny? Nina asked. What if this is just their culture? What if they really believe this is how powerful people should act? Ashley Clark, the ship's medic, looked up from her medical scanner. You mean they're not trying to be scary? They're trying to be ... impressive? Exactly, Nina said. Think about it. Every culture has different ways of showing power and authority. Maybe theirs just happens to look ridiculous to us. Steve thought about it. So you're saying they're not evil space tyrants? They're just ... really dramatic? That's exactly what I'm saying. And if I'm right, then maybe we can actually talk to them. Talk to them about what? About why they do all this. About their culture. About why they think threats of cosmic annihilation are a good way to start a conversation. Steve smiled. You want to do a cultural exchange? I want to try. If we can understand them, maybe we can help them understand us. An hour later, Nina was sending a message to the Imperial fleet. She had asked to speak with someone who could explain Imperial culture. To her surprise, They agreed to meet. "Greetings, human scientist," came their reply. "I am Scholar Dexiara of the Imperial Academy. I will explain the ways of the Empire." Minia noticed that this Imperial spoke more quietly than the others. The voice was still electronically modified, but it wasn't quite as booming. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us," Nina said. "I'm Dr. Nina Thompson. I study different cultures and how they communicate. Communication is important," Dexiara replied. "The Empire has perfected the art of communication." "That's what I'd like to discuss," Nina said. "Your methods of communication are very unique." Unique? Dexiara sounded pleased. "Yes, the Empire has developed these methods over many centuries. Can you tell me about that? How did your people start using these traumatic methods?" There was a pause. "Traumatic? The Empire is not traumatic. The Empire is powerful. But the way you speak, the smoke effects, the scary music, the skulls and spikes, it's all very theatrical." "Theatrical?" Dexiara repeated the word like he was trying to understand it. "Like a performance. Like acting in a play. The Empire does not act. The Empire simply is." Nina realized she was getting nowhere with this approach. "May I ask you something? How do other species usually react when they first meet the Empire?" "They surrender immediately," Dexiara said proudly. "They recognize the power of the Empire and submit." "All of them?" "All of them. The Empire has conquered thousands of worlds. None have ever resisted, but we're resisting." "You are not resisting. You are confusing." Nina smiled. "Confusing how?" "You laugh. No one has ever laughed at the Empire before. Maybe that's because we're not scared of you." "But why are you?" "Not scared?" Dexiara asked. "The Empire is terrifying." "To us, you're not terrifying. You're just trying very hard to be terrifying." "I do not understand." Nina had an idea. "Scholar Dexiara, would you be willing to come aboard our ship? Just to talk? No weapons, no threats. Just a conversation between two people who want to understand each other. That is unusual. The Empire does not normally engage in such activities. But you're a scholar. Don't scholars like to learn new things?" "Yes, learning is important, but boarding an enemy vessel is dangerous." "We're not your enemies," Nina said gently. "We're just confused neighbors." 2 hours later, Scholar Dexiara was standing in the Discovery's main conference room. Without the dramatic lighting and smoke effects, he looked much less intimidating. He was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large eyes. His robes were still black, but they looked more like academic robes than evil overlord costumes. "This is our ship," Nina said. "Not very dramatic, I'm afraid." Dexiara looked around. The conference room was clean and simple, with white walls and comfortable chairs. There were no skulls or spikes anywhere. "IT is very bright," he said. "We like bright," Ashley said. "Dark makes it hard to see what you're doing. The Empire prefers darkness. IT is more mysterious." "But why do you want to be mysterious?" Jake asked. Because that is how rulers rule. They must be feared." "Says who?" Nina asked. "The ancient texts, the teachings of the first emperor. All rulers must be dark and mysterious and terrible." "But why?" "Because that is how IT has always been done." Kevin Ross, the ship's language specialist, leaned forward. "Scholar, can I ask you something? In your language, do you have words for funny or humor?" "Humor?" Dexiara tilted his head. "What is humor?" "It's when something makes you laugh. When something is amusing or silly." "Silly?" "Not serious. Playful. Like a joke." "I do not understand. What is a joke?" The humans looked at each other. Nina realized they had found the heart of the problem. "A joke is when you say something that's not quite true, but in a way that makes people laugh, she explained. Why would you say something that is not true? Because sometimes truth can be funny. Sometimes situations are so strange that the only thing you can do is laugh. Laughter is good? Very good, Ashley said. It makes people happy. It helps them feel better when things are difficult. And people enjoy this? Yes, we love to laugh. Dexiara was quiet for a long moment. The Empire does not laugh. The Empire is serious. But why? Nina asked. Why can't the Empire laugh? Because laughter is not serious, and rulers must be serious. But what if being serious all the time makes people unhappy? People are supposed to be unhappy. That is how they know they are being ruled. Jake shook his head. That's terrible. Why would you want people to be unhappy? Because happy people do not obey. We're happy, Ashley pointed out, and we obey our leaders. You do? Of course. We follow orders when they make sense. We respect our leaders because they take care of us. They take care of you? Yes. Good leaders protect their people and help them have good lives. But how can they rule if people are not afraid? Nina smiled. Scholar, what if I told you that the best leaders are the ones people want to follow, not the ones people are forced to follow? That is ... impossible. Why? Because that is not how ruling works. Kevin had been thinking about something. Scholar, in your language, what do you call someone who makes people happy? There is nitrogen monoxide, such word. What about someone who helps people? Helper. I suppose, but helpers are not important. What about someone who protects people? Protector, but protectors serve the Empire. So you have words for people who help and protect, Nina said. But you don't have words for making people happy? Happiness is not important. But what if it is? Ashley asked. What if happy people work harder and live better lives? That cannot be true. Why not? Because the Empire has always done things the other way. Nina had an idea. Scholar, would you like to see how our ship works? Your ship? Yes. Would you like to meet our crew and see how we do things? That would be educational. For the next hour, Dexiara toured the Discovery. He met the engineers, who were happy to explain how everything worked. He talked to the security team, who joked with each other while they worked. He visited the medical bay, where Ashley showed him how they took care of people. Everyone seems content, he observed. They are, Nina said. They like their jobs. They like working together. They like helping each other. And they still do their work better than if they were scared, Jake said. When people are happy, they want to do good work. This is very strange. Why is it strange? Because if people are happy, why do they need rulers? They don't need rulers, Nina explained. They need leaders, people who help them organize and make decisions together. That is not ruling. No, it's not. It's better than ruling. Dexiara sat down in the conference room again. He looked confused and a little sad. I think, he said slowly, that the Empire may have been doing things wrong. Not wrong, Nina said kindly. Just ... differently. Your people learned one way to organize society. Our people learned another way. But your way seems better. It works for us. But maybe your people could find their own way to be happy. The Empire does not know how to be happy. You could learn, Ashley suggested. How? Well, Jake said, you could start by not trying to scare everyone you meet. But then how would people know we are important? By helping them, Nina said. By making their lives better. By being kind. Kind? Nice, friendly, caring about other people. The Empire does not know how to be kind. You're being kind right now, Kevin pointed out. You're talking to us. You're trying to understand us. That's kindness. IT is? Yes. And you could teach other Imperial people to do the same thing. Dexiara was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke again, and his voice was different. Quieter, less electronic. Dr. Thompson, he said, may I ask you something? Of course. Do you think? Do you think people could like the Empire if we stopped trying to scare them? I think they could, Nina said. But you. 3 weeks after the cultural exchange, Captain Jake Martinez was having breakfast when Lisa Park burst into the dining hall. Captain, she said, breathing hard from running. You need to see this. The entire galaxy is going crazy. Jake put down his coffee. Define crazy. The Empire is falling apart. But not in a war kind of way. In a laughing kind of way. Jake followed Lisa to the bridge, where the communication station was buzzing with activity. Ryan Cole looked up from his engineering console with a big grin. Sir, we're getting reports from all over Imperial space. It's incredible. What kind of reports? Species are rebelling, Lisa said, but not with weapons. They're rebelling with jokes. On the main screen, a transmission was playing. It showed a group of blue-skinned aliens standing in front of what looked like an Imperial government building. We are the people of Zelton Prime, one of them was saying. For 300 years, we have lived in fear of the Empire's dramatic announcements and scary costumes. But today, we learned something important. We learned that nobody has to be afraid of people who take themselves that seriously. Another transmission showed a different group of aliens. These ones looked like tall, thin insects. The Cygnus Collective refuses to be intimidated by theatrical lighting and artificial fog machines, their spokesperson announced. We demand that the Empire explain why they need so many skulls for simple government buildings. Jake sat down slowly. This is happening. Everywhere? Everywhere, Ryan confirmed. 17 different worlds had declared independence from the Empire in the past week. Not through violence, but through public mockery. And it's all because of what happened with Dr. Thompson? Partly, Lisa said. But also because Scholar Dexiara has been traveling around Imperial space, teaching people about something called humor. He's teaching them to laugh. He's teaching them that it's okay to laugh. Apparently, that's a revolutionary concept in the Empire. Another transmission came through. This one showed Supreme Commander Vorthik sitting on his plastic throne, but he looked different. Less dramatic, more tired. People of the Empire, he began, then stopped. He cleared his throat and started again in a normal voice. People of the Empire, there have been some misunderstandings lately. Jake leaned forward. Is he talking normally? It gets better, Ryan said. It has come to our attention, Vorthik continued, that our traditional methods of governance may be ... outdated. We are forming a committee to study new approaches to leadership. A committee? Jake asked. The Committee for Less Dramatic Government, Lisa read from her notes. They're also considering changing the name of the Empire to something less intimidating. Like what? The Galactic Cooperative Society is leading. In the polls? Jake shook his head. This is unbelievable. It gets even better, Ryan said. Show him the Admiral Zexthara footage. Lisa switched to another transmission. Admiral Zexthara was standing in front of his ship, but he wasn't wearing his scary robes. Instead, he was wearing what looked like a regular uniform. I want to apologize, he was saying, for my behavior during our first contact with the humans. I was following outdated protocols that prioritized intimidation over communication. I am now enrolled in a course called Basic Diplomacy for Former Tyrants. There's a course for that? Jake asked. Dr. Thompson started it, Lisa explained. She's been working with former Imperial officers to teach them normal ways to talk to people. And they're actually taking the course. There's a waiting list. Another message came through, this one from Battlefleet Commander Kethmer. "Citizens of the galaxy," he said, "I want to announce the formation of the Imperial Historical Reenactment Society. We have realized that our ships and weapons are better suited for educational demonstrations than actual warfare. Next month, we will be performing the Battle of Ancient Terra for students throughout the galaxy." "They're turning their military into a history club?" Jake asked. "Educational entertainment," Ryan corrected. "Apparently, once they stopped trying to be scary, people realized their ships are actually pretty cool to look at." "What about the weapons?" "They're converting the cannons of eternal suffering into fireworks launchers for celebrations." Jake started to laugh. "Fireworks?" "Very dramatic fireworks," Lisa said. "They're still dramatic people. They're just using their drama for fun instead of fear." A new transmission caught their attention. This one was from Scholar Dex Yara, but he was standing in front of a building that didn't look imperial at all. It was bright and colorful, with no skulls or spikes anywhere. "Welcome to the first meeting of the Galactic Council for Peaceful Cooperation," he said. "Today, representatives from 47 different worlds will discuss trade, exploration, and cultural exchange. No threats will be made, no ultimatums will be issued, and anyone who tries to use dramatic lighting will be asked to leave." 47 worlds? Jake asked. "Including Earth," Lisa said proudly. "Admiral Burke is there representing humanity." "What's the agenda?" "Establishing trade routes, sharing technology, and organizing the first intergalactic comedy festival." "Comedy festival?" Dex Yaros' idea. "He says humor is too important to keep to just one species." Jake thought about everything that had happened. 3 weeks ago, they had encountered a terrifying galactic empire. Now, that empire was turning into something completely different. "Sir," Ryan said, "we're getting a direct message from the Discovery." "Put Dr. Thompson through." Nina's face appeared on screen. She was standing in what looked like a classroom filled with various alien species. "Jake," she said, "I wanted to give you an update. The cultural exchange program is going better than we ever imagined. So I've heard. You're teaching former Imperial officers how to be normal." "Not normal," Nina corrected. "Better. They're learning that they can still be dramatic and impressive without being scary. They're channeling their theatrical nature into positive things." "Like what?" "Art, education, entertainment." It turns out the empire was full of very creative people who had been forced to use their creativity for intimidation. Now they're using it to make life more interesting. "And the government?" "They're writing a new constitution. They want to call it the Charter of Reasonable Governance. They asked me to help them make sure it doesn't sound too scary." Jake smiled. "This is incredible, Nina. You've changed an entire galactic civilization." "We all did," Nina said. "You?" "Started it by laughing instead of being afraid. I just helped them understand why that was okay." "What happens now?" "Now we build something new. A galaxy where people work together instead of being forced to obey. Where differences are celebrated instead of conquered. Where drama is used for entertainment instead of oppression." After the transmission ended, Jake sat back in his chair and looked around the bridge. "You know," he said, "when we first encountered the Empire, I thought we might have to fight them. Instead, we made them laugh," Lisa said. "And they made us laugh too," Ryan added. "And now everybody's laughing," Jake concluded. A final transmission came through. This one showed Supreme Commander Vorthak again, but he was standing next to a human woman with brown hair. "I want to introduce my new advisor on cultural affairs," Vorthak said. "Lieutenant Emma Stone, formerly of the human fleet. She has agreed to help the former Empire transition to what she calls a more chill approach to galactic governance." Emma waved at the camera. "Hi, everyone. We're going to take things one step at a time. First, we're removing all the skulls from government, buildings. Then we're going to work on having meetings that don't require smoke machines. And after that? Vorthik asked. After that, we're going to teach you how to tell jokes instead of making threats. I think you'll like it better. I already like it better, Vorthik said, then caught himself. I mean, I already like it better. The transmission ended, and Bridge was quiet for a moment. Sir, Lisa said, what do we do now? Jake thought about it. Now we go home and tell everyone what happened. We tell them that sometimes the best way to deal with scary people is to help them realize they don't have to be scary. And if we meet more scary aliens in the future, we laugh first, Jake said. And then we see if they want to learn how to laugh too. As the Liberty's Edge prepared to return to Earth, Jake couldn't help but smile. They had set out to explore the galaxy and had ended up changing it completely. Not through force or superior technology, but through the simple act of refusing to take themselves too seriously. Behind them, the former Imperial fleet was already beginning its transformation. The ships were still black and spiky, but now they were decorated with colorful banners instead of skulls. And somewhere in the distance, Jake could swear he heard the sound of laughter echoing through space. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was perfectly fine with him.